Good morning, everybody. Thanks for showing up today. Really appreciate it. Everybody awake? Feel ready?
Sure.
Yeah? Sure? Okay.
Need more coffee.
Well, first thing we want to do is thank you for coming and attending. We appreciate your attendance. I think we're going to grow a bit during the day because we're starting promptly here. And we especially appreciate our speakers today, and we appreciate the Capital Factory for hosting us. What more ideal place to have a meeting about StartupHPC than the innovation center for not only Austin, but Texas and the Southwest United States here at the Capital Factory. So I just wanted to give an overview of what we're going to do today. We expect it to be informative. We expect it to be interesting. We designed it to be enlightening and engaging. And so we encourage you to interact a lot. I mean, that's the purpose. So please ask questions, and I think, speakers will let you know when they want to take questions, but I think most of them will enjoy having questions, even as interrupts during your presentations. So I'm Stephen Perrineau. I'm your MC today. Steve Campbell, who's also a member of our team at OrionX, was unable to be here. I've stepped in. You have I think you've all received the agendas, but basically we're building on our first event that was last year at this time, so this is our second annual event. We've held it in conjunction with the supercomputing conferences. And in the first part of the morning, we're going to address the framework for getting funded. Everybody wants to know about how they can raise money in order to get their idea off. We're going to have case studies during the day. During the morning in particular. And then in the late part of the morning, we're going to talk about target markets and methodologies of going to market, and how STEM and HPC can help. What are some key application areas, and what sort of mindset should you have in the marketing arena? We're also going to have several companies that are going to be reviewed in terms of how you can learn from failure, because failure is a prelude to success. And we're having a number of first-person stories. And we'll have a panel in the afternoon with several CEOs and founders. What did they learn? How can you benefit from their experiences? And we're going to close formally around 3:20, 3:30. But we encourage you to stay after and mingle and have some more Q&A with speakers and discussion amongst ourselves even after that time. Sorry, this is a bit difficult to read, but for the morning we're going to look at getting funded, the entrepreneur ecosystem, incubation, and also have a founder story with 4 speakers in the first part of the morning before a break at 10:30. And then, as I mentioned, in the latter part of the morning, some of the marketing topics. We'll have a break for lunch and for some mingling. And then we'll talk about learning from failure, and we'll have our Q&A panel with CXOs and founders, as well as additional founder stories. Break periods and lunch are all going to be in this room. Please network and introduce yourselves to people you don't know during the breaks, and please ask questions for our speakers. And we also take a moment to think about our comrades in Paris and also in Beirut over the last few days. And now I'd like to introduce our first speaker. This is a gentleman I've had the pleasure of working for in a couple of environments. Shahin Khan is the founder of OrionX, which is a partnership that includes myself and several other people who are all out of the Sun Microsystems environment. Shahin is on the board of directors of both Massively Parallel Technologies and Wismo Inc. He's been VP of Marketing at 3 Leaf Systems and ScaleArc, and VP for Corporate Development, Intellectual Property, and Marketing at Silicon Graphics. And he had a number of executive positions at Sun Microsystems, including VP and General Manager of the HPC business. He was also VP of Product Marketing and Planning, and had all the marketing activities for the servers at Sun Microsystems. He's also been Chief Marketing Officer for a couple of other smaller companies. And he's worked on a global basis. Has been based in Europe, the UK in the past, and started his career at IBM. He's a well-recognized thought leader in competitive strategy, positioning, M&A, and marketing and sales alignment, and has been quoted and featured in media including the Wall Street Journal, San Jose Mercury News, and the Register. And he holds bachelor's and master's degrees from Princeton and Cornell. And it's my pleasure to introduce Shahin to talk about the funding framework.
Thank you, Doctor. I feel like I'm done now. I don't have to say anything.
There's your...
Okay. Let's wake this up. All right. Well, great to be here. Thank you all for being here. So last year was our first Startup HPC event. Several of you attended that one as well. And my feeling was that last year was sort of more of a curiosity. You know, what is this? Is this worthwhile to see? This year, I think we're starting to have more of a focus, both in terms of the attendance and as we get more into the grind of things. So the objective, just like last year, is to really be practical. You know, we didn't want to just invite a bunch of famous people who have forgotten how they became famous to kind of give us advice that we can't really follow. We wanted people who are actually doing it, who can really speak from recent experience. They're still kind of suffering through the challenges and joys of the whole startup thing. And of course, last year we kind of laid the groundwork. We talked about doing it inside, doing it outside, etc. So this year we're kind of moving a little bit more to the marketing part of it. Last year we didn't want to do anything to do with marketing because my group, our group was kind of really instigating this, and I didn't want it to look like this is an Orion event. For those of you who were there last year, we did not even mention Orion at all, and that was very intentional. We did not want to look like this is sort of a secret agenda to highlight Orion, and it continues not to be. And several of you told us, if you're the best person to cover a topic, just do it. Relax, don't worry about it. We can, we'll be all right. So this year you see a little bit more of the Orion thing because that's sort of what we do daily. We work with a lot of startups. We've been working with startups for the past 5-6 years, relatively actively. I personally have been tracking the VCs and startups probably for about 15-20 years now, so you kind of gain some things. So without further ado, this is sort of my summary of what I call the Get Funded framework. So let's go through that. So there are some key questions, I believe, that you must answer as an entrepreneur or as an entrepreneur-to-be or as somebody who sort of thinks about entrepreneurship. And I consider these to be the it, the you, the market, and the them. The it is really the product. What is it, right? And what is the place of this product on the value chain? Whose money do you want? At the end of the day, entrepreneurship has a lot to do with selling. Of course, we sell all day, even though we may not feel like it, which basically says if there's something you have passion for and you can argue in favor of and you can be persuasive about, then you don't feel like you're selling. You feel like you're just presenting your point of view. And that's really the kind of feeling you want to have about whatever it is that you're trying to build. The other important thing is it a feature or is it a company? What exactly are you building? And is it a unique thing or is it just better? Is it a black and white, I have it, nobody else does, end of story? Or is it like, well, there are 5 other ways of doing it, but mine is better? When you get into the grayscale, it becomes a lot harder to sort of justify it. Then really the you part may even come first, is that why are you doing this? Why are you personally doing this? It is critical for you to be very clear in your mind why you're doing this. You don't have to share this with anybody, but within your mind, be very clear. Are you doing it because you're trying to change the world? Are you doing it because you want to make $1 billion? Are you doing it because you just love it? Be very clear, because the more clear you are, the more you will go on the right path, and the more you will have the energy to pursue it. And be very frank with you. It's okay to want to do it because you want to make $1 billion. Just be clear about it. And then you know how to go around it. And always remember that as a startup, there are two things that you sell. There's the product, and then there's the company. The product you sell to the customers. The company you sell to investors. You will always have to do both of them, always. Even after you go public, even public companies have giant organizations that deal with Wall Street and financial analysts and investor relations and all of that. They're the guys selling the company to investors. And then you got the sales organization that sells the product to customers. And those are two different audiences. Investors love to hear that they have 65% margin. Customers may not enjoy hearing it, right? So those are two different ways of, then the market. Be prepared. This is a question that many VCs ask you. Is your product a vitamin or an aspirin? Is it nice to have, or does it actually cure my pain? If it's aspirin, you're more likely to sell it. If it's a vitamin, you're more likely not to. Is it the monument or is it the market? How many people are going to need it? Are they going to need it every time? Are they going to need it everywhere? Or is it just, the 5 people who are going to need it? And is it the slope in terms of barriers to entry, or is it a wall? Is it something that you crack that nobody else can copy? Or is it something that people say, they're doing that, I can do it too. And even if you have a patent, they just go around it and do it a different way. So be clear on what the barriers to entry are and how you're building those. And then the then part really is either the customers or the investors. And these questions always apply. There are different ways of posing this question. In the marketing parlance, there are half a dozen ways of doing this, but they fundamentally come down to, why do I care? Tell me why I care. Who are you? Why you? Let's say I do care about this, but why is it you who can actually help me solve it? And can you prove it? Right? So all of these show up in the next slide. This is kind of my general model of doing things like this, and it applies to several different topics. So the general model to me is that it starts with a compelling vision. And in the next talk that I'll do later today, we'll talk a little bit about that. So you need to have a destination, some vision. And as I will say, next time, there are qualities to what a vision must have. The second item is that you need some existing credibility. So let's say my vision is to build, the biggest cloud out there. But in fact, my background is not even technology. So then I don't have really the credibility to pursue the vision. So you need to have the credibility to actually be able to pursue the vision with a straight face. If you don't have it, your team has it. So always remember that when you talk to everybody, it's not just you that you're bragging about. It's your team as well. So be comfortable to say that I have wonderful marketing expertise. Well, I don't have it, but I've got Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so who has it. I may not be a finance whiz, but I've got somebody who's really awesome at it. So, the entire team's credibility is really there. And then you need a revenue roadmap. You need to say that between where I am today and my compelling vision, I'm going to have opportunities to actually sell something to customers. Otherwise, people are going to talk to you and say, oh my God, this is a really compelling vision. That's awesome. We should meet every 6 months. That's it. And they'll never buy anything from you. So then you starve and you'll never get there. So this becomes a very necessary thing. And then the fourth thing is, how do you roll it out? If you kind of summarize it, it becomes vision. Brand permission is a word that bigger companies use more than small companies, but you need to have sort of the credibility to pursue it. You need a roadmap, and then you need to roll it out. Now with that, you put the pitch together. So now you need to have a pitch. Now, my view is that the R&D cycle for a slide, a single PowerPoint slide, is on the order of 9 months. It takes 9 months of revision and honing before you present it and somebody says, can I get a copy of that? Now you've really got something that is really awesome. So don't worry about trying to get this thing right immediately. It needs lots and lots and lots of revision. At the end, when you get it, you say, wow, how come I didn't think of that? Well, because that's how it goes. Remember that when you present to VC types and investors, you're talking about valuation. You're talking about how much is my idea, my company worth. If they think it's a $100 million thing, then they might be okay giving you $50, $60 million. If they think it's only worth 2 million, they're going to give you a 1.5. So valuation is important all the time. It never goes away. You look at Apple, what's the market cap? Google, what's the market cap? That's valuation. At a startup, what is valuation? It's your story and your execution, right? Now, when you present, remember, it's called a pitch for a reason. You're pitching, you're selling, you're not explaining. You're being persuasive, you're not being descriptive, right? You need to project confidence. If you don't have confidence, get confidence. Do not present if you're not confident. How do you project confidence? It's all in your own head. Just project confidence. Nobody knows the difference. Project confidence. Without it, don't even bother going. Rehearse. Rehearse to people who are your friends. Rehearse with people who may not be your friends, but be good. By the time you get there, you need to know more about what you're doing than anybody on the planet. Otherwise, why should I invest in you? Right? Now think about your own family, think about your own friends, right? You kind of know some of them are a little bit more confident. Some of them, the ratio of confidence to competence is not quite to your liking, right? But confidence wins. Now, if you can match it with competence too, then you're awesome. And we're all in HPC, so the competence is check mark, right? We wouldn't even be here if we didn't have at least the minimum level, right? Third, demo. If you can demo it, demo. On your third slide, demo. Let me show you. When you show, everybody's convinced. And name drop. Name drop liberally. It's okay, right? I'm sort of reminded of the quote I like that, Bill Gates told me never to name drop. So, name drop. So, because that gives you credibility. That gives you connectedness. That tells you that, okay, these guys have audience with people who are difficult to get an audience with. So then this becomes your pitch. The pitch starts with an intro. Your introduction needs to be wow. Have you read a Michael Crichton book, Jurassic Park? That first page grabs your collar, slaps you, and you say, oh my, you can't, it just wows you. Your introduction has to be wow. Iterate until it is wow. What are you doing? What is a big deal? What is this, why do I care, right? I care because I'm doing this thing that can have such an impact. At the end of it is the ask. Why am I here? What am I asking you? We're asking for $7.5 million because we are going to ramp up engineering and we're going to start getting our first customers. Why $7.5 million? I've got a spreadsheet that tells you exactly how I'm going to spend it. Okay, so this is the introduction, this is the ask. What goes in the middle depends on the VC, depends on you, depends on what your strengths are, depends on what your weaknesses are, right? So it kind of goes like this. Team. The team has to be capable, it has to be cohesive, it has to be connected. It is very difficult in the early days to be that, especially the cohesiveness. So clear it out between yourselves, who's the CEO, who's the COO, who's this VP of technology. If you haven't worked it out, don't go in front of a VC, because the moment they see that you're not cohesive, you're done. And you're done for the next 4 years. You're not just done for the next 2 months. You can't come back and say, oh, we worked it out. Too late. Say, oh, these guys, I don't know. Okay, revenue model. Your revenue model needs to be disruptive. We're going to charge this way. We're going to charge subscription where everybody else is selling licenses. We're going to include this when other people are doing that. Competition. The competition needs to be disadvantaged. Our unfair advantages against competition is this, that, and the other. And they're never going to catch up with us, or we're going to have a 5-year head start. Your solution needs to be unique, not just better. Your product needs to be, the problem you're solving needs to be clear. There's a very clear problem that I'm solving, and it addresses a big opportunity or a rapidly growing opportunity, or better yet, big and rapidly growing opportunity that is underserved or not served at all. So you go around it. Now, if you're really strong with your team, you go first with that. Or you may decide that you're going to end with something strong. Or you may decide you put in the middle so that they actually remember that the team is strong. Because people remember the beginning, they remember the end, they kind of forget the middle. So the middle is where you want to throw in things that are memorable. So I stop here. This is essentially the short story of what I consider to be the get funded. And in my mind, it takes on the order of 3 months to 4 months to 6 months to really get this thing really done in a good way. Sometimes you don't have that luxury. So then you have to really just accelerate the time by being very intense about it. The other thing that I did mention that I am now is that stack rank your VCs. Look at each VC that you're going to talk to and see who else they've invested in. Find out who you really want. Who you really want, you probably should not be talking to first. Go talk to the ones that you don't really care so much about. That gives you practice, that gets you the questions out, and then go talk to the more, the ones that you're more serious about. And of course, let me end with this. The best way to raise funds is to not raise them at all, because you don't need it. Right? So if you can delay raising funds, then your valuation goes up, the cost of money comes down, life is a lot better. And the ideal scenario is that you never need to raise funds, and you just are good. So, I'm still on time?
On time.
Yeah, very well. Okay, well, thank you.